I hope that you are seated comfortably, with the light turned down and the curtains drawn.
Hello. Welcome back to Ecto Portal.
Welcome.
This is Anthony Anderson, your host, and I'm with
Verna Wilson,
my co-host, and
Linda Walker.
I'm not sure what that was.
It's a leftover exorcism from a couple of weeks ago.
Well, that's good. So, what did you all do this weekend?
Well, let's see. I went to go see a show, and I also saw a meteor shower.
You saw a meteor shower?
Yeah.
Well, what were you doing this weekend? Where were you, and where did you see the meteor shower?
Well, this was over in the East Bay, and the meteor shower was shown in the East Bay.
There wasn't gunfire? It wasn't gunfire?
No, it wasn't gunfire.
Okay,
it was a very beautiful night, and we actually ended up seeing two meteors. The first one was we just saw it very quickly. The second one was actually a little bit larger, and it actually kind of filled part of the sky. The second one, it just went really quick, but it was a little larger.
It was dark. Nighttime?
It was dark. It was a dark night.
What was called on those meteor showers? Persepolis or something?
I have no idea.
I forgot. It said one of the biggest meteor showers of the year, and it was supposed to be like.
Oh, and I missed it.
Yeah. Well, you have to be somewhere really, really super dark.
I'm not a stargazer. I don't keep looking up like that guy in PBS used to always say.
Well, it was. You could see
Jack
the moon.
Horkheimer?
You could see the moon very clearly through the trees, and it was very lovely night, and it was a great night for a meteor shower.
That's cool.
I'm lucky we managed to see two of them. Yeah.
So what's this? I saw this in a couple of places about a giant meteor heading towards the Earth, and NASA needs to figure out how to get rid of it. Now I noticed this giant meteor coming towards Earth possibility comes up like I swear to God once a year. The Scare does. You see it on Facebook. Everybody
I haven't
posts
seen
it.
that article.
I saw it twice this week in two different places. I'm like, what's with this meteor? Are you going to send like Ben Affleck out there to take care of that one too?
I mean, I've read articles about comets heading towards about comets that they narrowly missed us, but not meteors.
Yeah, or they tell you like the odds of if one hit us, how devastating would it be? I don't know. I didn't really read them because I was so tired of reading those type of articles about what ifs that I'm like, I'm over it. Let us get hit by one already.
I've been reading, also I've been reading about in NASA. They were talking about the NASA about. I think this meteor is supposed to come this way, but it's not. It's going to be many years from now. We'll probably be dead by then.
Oh, okay. Oof.
So I think they're just planning to intercept. You don't
So
really
you did
have
read
to
the
worry about
article,
anything, huh?
So you did read the article.
Oh yeah, I did.
Oh, okay.
But
All right.
I didn't remember all the details or anything. But
I was just curious if you guys had heard what the details were because I just didn't want to click into it and like, okay, not another one, not another what if. Oh, I wanted to see if it was going to hit this time.
But there's been meteors that's fallen to Earth that just fell in a field, and that was like,
no, this one is the big one.
It's like gigantic.
Gigantic, huh? Yeah.
Maybe it's possibly they're finally emitting that they're seeing Planet X. Have you heard of Planet X?
That's what Zacharias
Well, they're
Sitchin
discovering
talked about.
so many planets lately too. I mean, little ones, tons of them.
I know. Yeah.
So anything's possible.
Well, we'll see what happens. If
So-
not, light up a joint and kiss your ass goodbye.
Gee, that's a nice way to put it, isn't it?
So getting back, so what did you do anything fun?
Yeah, on impulse, we went to go see somebody play in Berkeley. You remember Darby Slick from the Great Society?
I don't, but you guys probably
He
do.
wrote some songs for Jefferson Airplane. He wrote
Wasn't he Grace Slick's brother?
I think he was either her brother or her cousin. I wasn't sure. If I have that wrong, then
I know who that is.
Somebody correct me if I have it wrong. But anyway, he wrote White. I think he wrote "Somebody to Love," and I think he wrote some other songs for Jefferson Airplane. And he was playing in a small venue in Berkeley. And by impulse, we just decided to go see him, and it was a lot of fun. We saw the first part of the set, and we enjoyed it. And then afterwards, we just didn't stay for the second part. But it was a lot of fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Looked around Berkeley or around the East Bay?
Yeah, it was around Berkeley, and then we went actually for dinner before that, but when we went to go see him play, and it was fun. It's a very small crowd. Obviously, the old Berkeley crowd who remembers the '60s, they were all there. It looks like these people all knew each other.
Yeah, sure
But,
they did.
I'm sure they did.
Yes, it looks like they all knew each other, and it was very cool to see him, and it was very cool to see him do some songs, and he looked pretty good, and he sang great, and
Cool.
it's one of those things where you realize that you're seeing somebody from that era, and you probably won't see them play for a long, long time. So yeah,
That's true.
yeah,
Or in that particular setting, maybe.
right, exactly. So
Well, I went to the Hornet, remember?
I
Yes,
remember you
and I
talking
am
about that.
Sang one night on the Hornet on
jealous.
Saturday.
Yeah.
For the Grey Ghost Paracon over on the USS Hornet Museum. They
I
hold
saw
it
pictures.
every August. They hold it. Yeah, we posted lots of pictures. Dustin Perry from Ghost Hunters. Chris Williams from Ghost Hunters was there. Bloody Mary from New Orleans. She was a lot of fun. Lloyd Auerbach was there. Elizabeth Saint from a new paranormal show called The Ghosts of Shepperton.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's her and Nick Groff and this other guy who investigate this one town's hauntings. And it's like the police station takes the calls and they go out on these paranormal cases.
Now, was this like a small conference or a small investigation that everybody was doing, or was it
it's
was it
both.
something regular that they do
They do it once a year.
once a year? Okay.
At least for this particular event. It raises money for the Hornet Museum. But you can either go to the conference, and those tickets are, I think, they were 40 and then they were 20 close to the event. And it's like 3 hours of speakers, vendor tables. You can look around the museum, and then you can go home if you want. Or if you get the VIP, which I think is like 150, then you stay overnight. You get dinner served in the mess hall. You pick out your bunk, and then they break into teams. You investigate all night.
Huh.
And then you have breakfast in the morning and you go home.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Now, tell me a little bit about the history of the USS Hornet.
The little I know is there was an original ship with that name that got bombed, I think, in World War II. Then they had another one replace it. And then when the war was over, then they decommissioned it. They recommissioned it again for, I believe, the Korean War a little bit, and then into the Vietnam War. And after the Vietnam War, it was sent up to Bremerton, Washington, Trident up there with their naval yard to mothball it. And it sat there for 20 some odd years.
20 some, yeah.
And they were going to scrap metal it. And someone said, "Hey, can you bring it down here? We'll pay for, to bring it down. Can we have it?" And they said, "Sure." And they deemed it a landmark before they did that, so they couldn't scrap metal it. So it actually saved the ship. And now it sits in Alameda, right there off the water.
Yeah, you can see it. You can come visit.
Yeah, it's open daily.
I've actually heard about it, and I've always wanted to come visit, but
It's
obviously you came when
humongous.
everybody was doing a really good conference there.
But they do,
investigation.
once a month, they do paranormal overnights.
Oh,
In a
that's very
much
cool.
smaller deal where people will pay $100, I think, or $125. And it's much smaller groups. They're 4 or 5 people. It's much quieter. There was like 150 to 250 people at the conference, but when they went home, there was probably 75 of us. So it was still too many. I thought it was too many this year. But you can do that. You can actually go to the once a month overnight, and it's kind of fun.
That
just
sounds like fun. I'd love to do
So
that.
I suppose Miss Jackie was there, of course, with you.
Of course, Jackie was there.
Of course she
Hello,
was.
Jackie. I know you're out there listening to us.
And I bet she caught something too. She
Well,
probably
no.
caught
Well,
no,
she
no.
was sick, so she
I'm
caught
sorry.
something from her little grandson.
No, I
no,
mean,
I
caught
knew that was
something
gonna
like
happen.
on
Paranormal.
like on EVPs or maybe a picture. I mean, Jackie tends to catch a lot of good stuff.
She catches EPPs.
Yeah, she catches some good ones too.
She was lacking sleep when we went. I could tell.
Poor Jackie.
I can tell she still didn't feel too good. She was still tromping around though. She was a trooper.
She is.
And I know I could tell just by the look on her face. I can just look at Jackie now, and she's thinking what I'm thinking. Like, there's too many people here. There's
Yeah.
nowhere for me to go. I can't do anything. So
What's she doing?
I'm not sure what Verna's looking
What
at.
is Verna doing?
I am trying.
Is that big enough?
Thank you.
So
I
did
can't
you
see that far,
personally
sorry.
had any did you have any personal experiences?
You know, other than noisy people, some of them were rude. No, I didn't really have a great time this time because there was too many people.
Oh, that's too bad.
We got to
I
sleep
know
in our own section, though.
John Sinclair, is it John Sinclair? He's,
Who?
He's with another paranormal group. He's a really nice man. I met him at the Warsaw Club.
Richard.
Richard Sinclair. Forgive me,
I was
Richard,
like-
if you're listening.
I was confused because I have a coworker by
He
that
was
name, so I'm
mentioned in
confused.
Facebook that he caught a dog barking in the sick bay.
You just reminded me. I did have an experience, Linda.
There you go.
I actually heard it twice. A dog barking, and it was on that same level of the ship. I
Did
heard
you hear it in the sick bay? I think he
No,
got it in
it was
the
a
sick
different
bay.
point. It was
Oh,
in like
wow.
the small cafeteria.
Oh,
I heard
wow.
just before we entered. I heard the dog bark, and we were all talking about it. And then the docent said, "Keep it quiet down. There's other groups around that are complaining." And I'm like, "Did you hear that dog bark?" And then just before we went, I heard it again. It was like, "Ruff, ruff." And I'm like, and someone else heard the dog bark.
This dog has been known to bark before
there is
when
a
there's
ghost
not really
dog
a
on the
dog
ship.
on
There's
the
a ghost
ship.
dog.
Yep,
It's a
named
ghost
Stella.
dog.
And it actually was the engineer's dog, and it passed away. I think it passed away on the ship as well.
Wow.
But yeah, they hear the dog all the time. But we were hearing it all over the place that night.
you know, like he was talking
It's quite a
about
vocal
that he
dog,
can.
vocal ghost dog.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't even like a whisper. It wasn't I caught it on my
Right.
recorder.
It was like a dog was
Did you hear
actually
that dog
there.
bark? Yeah.
Like he was on the other side of the door.
pretty cool.
Right.
Wow.
And we didn't hear
Okay.
people, just dogs.
Yeah. Did you hear him walk? Because he said that he heard like that, like you know how
scampering
the
kinda?
scampering with the
No.
nails. You know,
Nope. Our group said
heard
our
that?
group was really noisy,
Too
and
bad.
they were all novice ghost hunters. So they were brought all glow sticks around their necks and
Oh,
doing all
no.
kinds of silly stuff.
That's the worst thing. I mean, there's nothing worse when you go on these group investigations and you get with. I hate to say amateurs
But
in
let's
some
face
ways.
it, conferences are to socialize.
That's true.
Yeah.
But
Not really to investigate seriously.
well, you know, that's the way we are. You know, we like. You know, you have to explain that you got to shut up or you're not going to get anything. You
yeah,
know.
but you can't do that either.
Nope.
They paid money too.
In conferences, there's always going to be a mixture of novices and people who are experienced in that, and you're going to get all kinds of. Sometimes you're going to get all kinds of people. You know, some people are going to be a little bit on the noisier side, and then other times you get a quiet group. So
no, you just get annoying people.
you just get a different mix of personalities, is what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just the way it is. Yeah.
Okay, you better get into your paranormal news here.
Yeah.
So-
Let's
Well,
get your
I don't
news.
have too much in
Give us what you
paranormal
got.
news. In the Echo Portal page, I did put out a couple of things that unfortunately had to debunk it. There
Which
was
ones?
well, the one I saw in Coast to Coast was the crop circles, and I love crop circles. I think they're the coolest things in the universe. And the latest one, if you look at the Ecto Portal page on
beautiful looking.
Facebook.
I saw that.
It's just absolutely stunning. Well, finding out today that they had to debunk it.
How so?
They said that some guy did it. That it wasn't, you know, like from the UFOs or whatever, you know, the way the crop circles are made or anything like that. And such a, you know, what can I say? My mind is so blank.
But when I was reading, the people who own the property, The
farmers.
actual
They were
crop.
gone for 5 days, and then they said they came home and they found this whole
But how could
beautiful
one guy do it in
zodiac.
5? I don't think I could do it in 5 days.
Yeah, that's quite an elaborate job for 5 days.
They're
I don't
debunking
know.
it.
So, I mean, how could they debunk it if it was done so quickly and they had a picture of it?
I want to
mean,
see them do one in 5 days. You prove to me that something that elaborate
Right.
can be done by one guy in 5 days.
I have
They
no
could
Then
be
I'll
do-
believe it.
I mean,
They could be debunking it just so that they don't create a fuss and they don't have people coming over there to look at it.
well, no. Actually, there's people who do that for a living. I mean, they actually go there and analyze the. You know, they got experts.
Okay.
They go there and they will say if this is real, if this is not real, and obviously, this man who is like a professional, that he is debunking the crop circle. Here we go. Here we go.
I don't know. I have a hard time because it's such an elaborate. I was looking
It's-
at it.
it's
different
amazing.
I saw the
levels
design.
and
It really is. It's pretty.
It has like beveled edges on some of the sides. It's amazing.
It's really something. to
Well,
look
I've
at.
seen a long time ago a film clip that somebody took of a crop circle actually being made. It's like orbs. I know.
And they're flattening
And
the
they're
grass,
like orbs,
and
and they're
it's-
just going around
It's like
and
they're
around. They're
etching.
just like etching. Yeah, I mean, it's a very rare
You know what? I think
footage.
some of these guys who claim they did it, I think they're trying to claim they did it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I get
Well,
you.
however, the investigation, this guy, his name is Andrew, solved the mystery of the circle sources. And he said he revealed that the elaborate nature of the circle inspired him to dig into the story a little further. So according to him, he now learned the identities of the artists behind the formation. And
Tell
he
those
did not
owners,
reveal
'cause-
them to his readers. So yeah, you could be right. They
His
could be saying that they
readers?
went out. Well, his readers are people who were inquiring.
I know the owners said that they lost an entire crop over that, and that they were going to sell tickets for people to come in and look at it to make up for the fact that they lost their crop. I think they should sue the guy who claims he made it.
Well, the person who supposedly made it said it took him him and some other people took them 3 days to complete it.
And no one saw him do it. It just
Nobody saw him do it. Nope.
How could you miss that? How can you miss seeing somebody do that for over 5 days?
it's so gigantic.
Well,
It doesn't make any sense.
The family was gone on vacation for 5 days. They come back, they find a crop
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah, but
then
it's-
they got somebody doing it. So now they found out that this person took them only 3 days to do it.
I mean, look at this.
And this wound up being a
takes
commercial
3 days?
advertisement for a company appropriately known as Mothership Glass.
Okay, everybody, go to the Ecto portal page, look at the article,
look.
and tell me if you really think that somebody did all of that in 3 days.
And I think
He
if you-
had a team. He had a team of
Isn't
people
if
who
you
did
click on it, there's a video that shows different sides of it and stuff?
Yes.
Okay,
I think
that's the one I was
so.
impressed
Yes,
by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And it will explain everything, but unfortunately, it was a commercial thing, and for a company, and they did it, and that's really sickening. It makes my heart, all these beautiful, mysterious crop circles, and this one was like, wow, this is really cool, and then finding out that
that it may not be what they think.
it wasn't. It was
I
very
still
commercial.
I still wonder if someone's not just trying to take the fame
Right,
from it.
exactly.
Well, yeah. Well, it's also I did post another thing about this poltergeist.
Right, I show that right here.
Yeah, it was from the UK Mirror, and I like.
Is that the guy in his house?
Yeah.
This one right
And
here.
so I had to look.
cried foul over that one.
Oh, I totally could. No, I want everybody to see it because I want everybody to take a really close look when you see something that it looks too incredible. Really take a close look because you can see strings and stuff. Thanks to Laura too, Laura Casing. She's our friend Barbara, Laura.
Lori Leeds?
Not Laura Leeds, Casing.
No, that's Barbara.
That's Barbara's friend.
She's mixing two people together.
I am mixing people.
Barbara and Lori.
Yeah, Barbara and Lori. Lori. Anyhow, she mentioned that, and I took a really close look.
I'll have to look
and
myself again. When I looked
yeah,
at it,
and she says she
slow
found
or
a
something.
little wiring, a
Ooh.
little, and it's just that when you see something that's too good to be true, really it is too
Actually,
good to
if
be
you
true.
watch it again, you know what I found? When the cupboard opens, the white cupboard on the right,
Right.
I swear to God, you can see this shadow of someone's sleeve, a hand,
Oh.
opening the
see?
cupboard. It's only like part of the elbow, like a shadow of the elbow.
Well, that
Look
was
at that
sloppy.
cupboard on the right when
Right.
it opens, and you'll see
Right.
that shadow again.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted people to see that, to show, that not everything that you see on YouTube or magazines known like UK Mirror and stuff like that, that is too good to be true. It is too good to be true because nobody really catches these things.
Speaking of your the articles that were posted, and the one that you found a couple of weeks early, somebody had questions about that hospital one where the person, where the soul was leaving the body.
In China?
That one,
Yeah.
somebody had questions about that. In hospitals, we all know that things like that can happen in hospitals. They're notorious for them because people die in hospitals, people are sick, but they said, well, somebody could have taken the camera and, could have fooled with it. Unfortunately, it's very easy to do. But have you heard any updates about that particular one?
Oh yeah, I saw that one. The
that
hospital
Chinese one, the
screen.
lady who died in
Yeah.
bed.
My only beef
It
is
looked like-
that it's such a full apparition that comes out of the body. I've never
Right.
seen a full.
Right.
I've seen
Yeah.
a very ghostly thing. I've seen orb-like things, but I've never seen a full body kind of sit up.
Right.
So I kind of was like,
Well, also what made me kind of skeptical too is the way she was in a hospital room. It didn't even look like a hospital room. It looked
No, they
like more
said-
like a
Well, it was more like a
sanitarium.
hall. It was more like a
hallway.
hallway. They left They left the body in the bed in the hallway because they took it out of the hospital.
And they
room.
do
That's
that.
Why
Oh,
it,
yeah, that can happen.
That's
yeah.
why it didn't
Okay,
look like
all right.
one. Yeah.
It just looked weird to me.
I guess
So-
we won't know.
So we were just wondering if there was an update on that because somebody had questions about it, and I was
No,
wondering. Yeah.
no.
I think it was from like Thailand or something. Though, could you fly
No, it
to
was in
Thailand?
China.
Was it China? Could you fly to China and find out?
Yeah, go back to the article and find out if there's an update or if they managed to find out if it was real or
I'll
not.
do my best. I'll do some digging. I'll do some digging. Like
That's
graveyards.
one thing about looking through a lot of paranormal news that come out when they have pictures and videos of things is that you really have to sift. And then one of these
true.
and then one of these times you actually run across something that really did happen, and then it's caught on camera, and then that's what makes it all worth looking for.
Well, that's like my favorite one about the ghost that followed the guy in the taxi cab in Thailand. I think
Yeah.
it was in Thailand or something like that.
See, I
I
don't
don't
know.
know.
See, I'm
Thailand
so-
is really weird.
I'm so skeptical now because there's so many good programs where you can create that.
I know.
I mean, those overlays of video and
Yeah, it's
That makes it hard for some people who are real paranormal investigators to really catch something. What if you and I caught something, Tony? And it was like, and we're trying to tell people it really did happen. We really
But-
did see it. and
but
people
then it
say,
really did happen.
But to be realistic, though, if we caught something and we were using a video camera, it would be moving around because I would be looking at stuff. And you would say, "Oh, look over there," and the camera would swing over, and I would try and focus. I would try and get closer.
That's true.
Maybe it would disappear. It's just everyone's cameras are perfectly still, perfectly fine. In
they
focus.
happen when they happen, and then if you catch them, that's great.
Yeah.
If not,
Well, that's the
then-
same like with Ghost Adventures with Zach. You know, he's always gets orbs, always has orbs moving around the
He's
body. and
possessed
stuff.
every week. So, I would, I would
I
have
mean,
orbs
and
too
their
if I was
cameras are pretty
possessed
still,
every
but
week.
he's got an extra cameraman besides just Aaron.
Well, they all take turns shooting
They
cameras,
do?
but they don't have an extra cameraman.
You
they
sure?
They are their own cameraman.
Oh, they are their own camera? Because
They do that
sometimes
on-
I see all
no.
three of them. Okay.
Well, no, it's because they're all investigating, but they take turns.
Okay. Well,
That's
I
how
never.
if someone's doing something and gets caught up in something, the other one says, "Quick, shoot me while I do this,"
Hmm.
or something's happening, and then the other one will run over and shoot him. It actually
That's
makes a lot of
It does.
practical sense because if you're going to catch something quick, someone's always got a camera ready.
Hmm.
So
That's true. Well, I thought they might have another extra camera person just in case they want to have all three of them together.
Most
I
of the
think
shows
they
do that.
and
Most.
and it's
Yeah.
okay.
most of the times. Well, I haven't even I haven't watched the ghost hunting shows like you both have because I don't have cable and I hardly watch them. But most of the few ones that I've seen when I've been to Linda's house with that, she said, "Oh, Verna, watch this ghost hunting show." I'm like, okay. They always level a camera at something really dramatic, and then it looks larger than life, and everybody's like, "Oh no!" And then all of a sudden you see this still, this like really,
dun,
and
was that?
I'm thinking to myself,
What was that?
Gee, they really know where to aim, don't they? But
they
no.
do. It's amazing,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And then when they come to a commercial, oh, nothing.
Right, and then when
That's ghost hunters.
And then when we're in our investigations, it's very quiet. It's like, and then
Sometimes.
well, Well,
Most of the
most
time
of the
it
time,
is.
it's very quiet, and you're sitting there very patient, and then all of a sudden, a flicker or a noise, and we caught it. We heard it. We caught it, but it was so subtle that you're not good. That
Well,
if we had a TV show, everybody would probably be falling
That's
asleep.
what's so different from real life too. It takes hours and hours.
But I want Verna to tell you who our special guest is tonight and what our topic is.
Eric Bradner. He is going to be talking about. He does tours of cemeteries. He's going to be talking about cemeteries and mourning rituals, and a little bit about spiritualism too.
All right, so we're going to have that right when we come back. Eric will be with us, calling in as a guest. So stay tuned as we talk about cemeteries tonight.
We'll be back.
Yay!
I see dead people.
And we are back.
We're back.
Now we have a special guest on the line, don't we, Verna?
Yes, we are. We have Eric Bradner on the line.
Eric, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, we can hear you pretty good. Let me turn this up a
See
little.
if we can hear you a little more.
You still there with us?
How's that? Is
There
that
you
better?
go. Much better.
I'm on the phone. I've got the headset on, so
Oh, okay. Cool.
hold that closer to my mouth.
Nice. So we're talking tonight about cemeteries, something you know a lot about.
Yes, I do.
So tell us, what was your fascination with cemeteries, and how did you get into what you're doing? And explain to us what you're doing, actually.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I am currently involved with the Old City Cemetery in Sacramento, which was founded in 1848. And actually, they may have been burying people there on the down low before that.
Oh, in the same spot?
Yeah, or in the same area. There was a farm close by that people were buried at. And we also found that there is an Indian burial ground about 2 blocks away as well, which is now under the freeway under 50. So if you ever drive through Sacramento, you're probably driving over an Indian burial ground.
Well, and I'm sure that's exactly where the Native Americans intended their burial ground to end up.
Yeah, right.
Now, for the Indian burials, do they pretty much leave those burials alone? They don't really touch that land or go near it?
Well, no, that's pretty much gone. That was pretty much gone 150 years ago. It had every time it washed, they had a high water or a flood or a rain, then they would find bodies or Indian arrowheads and trinkets.
Wow.
So yeah, I think that's all pretty much gone by now. But I started going to walking tours at the old cemetery, and I found them so fascinating, and that I started asking questions. Say, how did people do this, or why did they do that? And often the answers I got were, we don't know, but we'd love extra people to come in and do some research.
Yeah, there's always enough history to go around, right?
Oh, yeah. So I started digging, so to speak, digging through the records, and found a lot of great stories about people in the cemetery, and really was able to bring their stories to life, so to speak, to use all the bad puns that I can. And the period just fascinates me. The period of 1850 through 1920 is where we have the bulk of the people. The period where they're buried in there. So, and I just find it fascinating, because you have the beginnings of our modern world, and lots of places, lots of stories to tell. You know,
I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of stories. I'm sure there's a lot of stories behind a lot of the names and dates that are in that cemetery. And was there a lot of, and did people ask about the symbolism or about why? I mean, some of that, I'm sure there's some mausoleums there, and did they ask about the architecture and?
Yeah, we have a fabulous mausoleum there, which one of the central ones is actually belongs to a woman who was a spiritualist.
Oh, looks like you're fading out there, Eric, a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. How's that? I need to hold it closer.
Perfect.
Oh, good. Now we can hear you better.
Okay, I'll just keep it like this.
Okay.
One of the largest and most imposing mausoleums that we have in the cemetery is one that's, if you've been there before, or maybe you'll go now after you hear this.
Exactly.
It's a fabulous one. It's sent right in the center of the cemetery, and it's just enormous. It has windows that you can look in and see a coffin if you like.
Wow.
That we just recently cleaned it up after years. You couldn't see it, but it has some interesting markings that I think I deciphered at one point, but I'm not sure. It is a heart with wings on it.
What is the name of the family of that mausoleum?
It's Wilson. Her name actually was, let's see.
And are people still are they still burying relatives there, or are pretty much the last of them, the last of the family line has been buried in that mausoleum? Eric, are you still there?
Hello?
Hello.
Uh-oh, we might have lost him.
Let's see if we can get Eric back in.
He kind of fade away.
Might have disconnected.
Yeah,
Could be a Skype call. Might have dropped.
I'm gonna go ahead and message him right now and say, Eric, call back. You faded away.
So let me disconnect this.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Hello.
Still there?
Hello.
Still there, Eric?
You're still back.
Yay.
Yes, I'm sorry. I got excited telling my story, and I pulled the plug out.
Oh, Eric. Oh, well, you're on now, so that's good.
Okay. So let's see. I was going to tell you about Mary, about Crazy Mary.
Yes, tell us about Crazy Mary.
Okay, Crazy Mary. That was her nickname around town. You wouldn't want to call that her to her face. Was a rather strong-willed woman. She was an early businesswoman. She was a prostitute in Sacramento in the 1850s, at the time when it was legal. And she made a good amount of money there. And then she married well. She married Mr. Wilson, who owned a hotel in town. He died. She got control of the hotel and kept running that hotel very well.
Was it just a hotel when she ran it?
It was just a hotel, but it was a nice hotel. It was fancy, I believe. But it made money. That's what was important.
Nice.
And then she was a spiritualist, and she was a Catholic, which is unusual because the Catholics were not usually spiritualists. And she was always sick and always doctor shopping. And back then, you might have a regular doctor and an eclectic doctor, herbalist, a fan of cupping and bleeding, and something else, homeopathy. So you never knew what kind of doctor you'd get, and she would soon grew tired of the doctor as she did her husband. And at one point, her son died, and she blamed her husband for this for some reason. And she started building this elaborate mausoleum to him, which cost, I think, like 16,000 or upwards, and this was in the 18. I don't have it in front of me here.
And what was
60s
her
or
last
70s.
name?
Wilson.
Wilson, W-O-L-S-O-N?
Wolson.
Okay, Mary
I wonder how
Wilson.
much that would be in today's equivalency for money.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but probably, I don't know, maybe upwards of $500,000.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot to dedicate to a family mouse. I mean, that's a lot just to
Bury one person.
Bury one person.
Right,
yeah.
right.
And it's still there,
well,
right?
She used it herself 3 years later when she was buried there, and it still wasn't paid for, I don't think.
Oh, really?
Right. They had to do it on installments, like a car. She blamed her husband for the boy being sick. He had like St. Vitus dance or some weird thing like that.
St. Vitus? What?
Saint
Vitus
Vitus dance.
Really?
It's a affliction where you kind of have spasms and involuntary movements in your arms and face and hands.
Yeah, because I know the St. Vitus. Hi, Eric. It's Linda. I know
Hi.
St. Vitus dance. It was back in the medieval times, I think, when they ate like moldy bread or something like that, and it had like some kind of a psychedelic effect on it. And they used to dance, like they would get on, and it was like a psychedelic, and they would dance forever, and and go crazy. So
I didn't know any of this. I'm learning all the time.
Well, I mean, we hear about it in medieval times. We don't hear so much about St. Vitus dance back in the 19th century.
And who knows
so
if
that's pretty unique.
Yeah, it is unique.
Or not.
So it wasn't.
Yeah,
paid for?
and then so Mary died and was buried there, and in her will it specified that her ex-husband could keep. He owned the hotel, but he didn't get the profit from it. And her ex-husband, who she went back to, he could get the profit for the running of the hotel. But both of these men were only allowed to make a living if they didn't remarry to anyone else.
Interesting.
Wow.
Stipulations.
So yes, from after the grave, she still had her hands grasping.
Reminds me of the novel Middlemarch, where Dorothea's husband makes a will that if she married his nephew, who was secretly in love with her, that she would lose all of her money because he was afraid they would marry after he died. Mm-hmm.
I haven't read that.
Now everybody's going to go off and read Middlemarch, but they should.
Yeah.
It's a great book.
So I don't know. If that answered your question, that started to be kind of a ramble. But anyway, yes, I researched stories on the cemetery, and I put them on in tours that we're doing in the cemetery, such as the one on the 27th of August.
Cool. And do you know 27th? Where that? How much that is, and where that is?
Yes, it's $10. It's a fundraiser for the old city cemetery, and it's in Sacramento, starting at 7 p.m. So you get to be in the cemetery after closing, and it'll be about an hour or so. We'll wander through the cemetery and introduce you to some of the residents there who were spiritualists or various arcane and occult practices that were being observed during the 19th century. Let's put it that way.
Very cool. Now, is there a specific place that people should meet to go on the tour?
There's a just meet at the front entrance there if you're interested.
Okay.
And,
what is the name of the cemetery?
It's limited to 50 people because more than that, it's a little crowded.
Yeah.
Do you have a website where people
have a
can?
problem with that. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, we do. It's if you go to we have a Facebook page. If you look up Sacramento Historic Cemetery, it'll be on there. And we also have oldcitycemetery.com.
Cool. Very cool. Now, what are some traditions? Are there some traditions that you've learned, some morning traditions, and some traditions that you've learned while touring this cemetery that you'd like to talk about?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, the Victorians had a very developed, elaborate sense of mourning, and there's various stages that you would go through. Of course, black, which is still cool. You know, I still wear black. People say, "Are you in mourning?" I'm like, "No, I'm just an old punk rocker."
Yes, you are.
But
You remember you went to the punk rock walking tour.
Oh yeah. We can talk about that if you want to. But the Victorians were just crazy obsessed with grief. Was just such a part of their lives. They were so messed up with guilt and repression and grief. Oh my God.
Well, I think
they loved it too. You know.
Well, I think it's pretty much part of the the mortality life, that women didn't live very long in childbirth, children didn't live very long. I mean, there was a lot of deaths, and then also diseases too. So
I was noticing, like, the average lifespan was like 40 to 45.
The lifespan was shorter back then.
Right. Yeah. 40 was like an old man. Yeah.
I've seen pictures of people who in that period who've passed away. They don't look old at all. They're not gray. They look like they're still in their prime, and yet they're gone.
If they only had aspirin.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Or antibiotics.
Well, and he had the doctoring, and at that time was just coming out of the cupping and bleeding and leeches stage there. So no wonder that people didn't want to go to the doctor. They didn't wash their hands after they went to the bathroom, and then stuck their hands in you. So,
yeah.
But but actually, the spiritualists kind of turned that around of the 19th century. They wore white when they went to a funeral because they wanted to. They wanted to say that this is just one part of a journey. This is not the end. This is not something to mourn.
That's a better way to look at it. A
much better way of looking.
Pleasant
at it.
outlook.
Yeah, definitely. But the Victorians, they had various stages, 3 basic stages, I think, of mourning. There's the heavy mourning. Like if it was somebody important to you, like your husband, and this also kind of depended on your class too, because poor people couldn't afford to walk around in black and mourn for 2 years.
Well, didn't they also wear different colors? Because I remember I visited an old house in Benicia, and there was a purple dress that was on display that belonged to the family, and apparently purple was the mourning color. It was a mourning dress.
Right. Yeah. There's different phases. So, say if your husband had been dead for 6 months or a year or something, then you could start wearing this slightly more colorful outfit with slightly more attachments to it. So, there's a very austere. Black head to toe type mourning, and then there are, like you said, other things that you can wear down the road, and then of course, men had to go to work, so you would often have a black armband or something like that.
We are back.
We're back.
Eric, you still there?
I'm here, yeah. Hey, I switched to speakerphone. Can you hear me better?
Oh, yeah, much better.
Okay, I'll just do that. I was on my dumb headphones before.
Cool, very nice. So we were talking about mourning, correct?
Oh, yeah. I just want to say I love that that Hank Williams song. Is the implication that he's got her in the trunk of the car with him?
That was actually the whole thing was 6 More Miles to the Graveyard by Hank Williams.
Right, I love that.
Let's see, we also had Make Out in the Graveyard from Fun Size and Headstone by Defeater. But yeah, that was definitely Hank Williams at the beginning.
Yeah. So, the Victorians, they loved their grief, you know. They it was something that they could extend, you know, that at least the upper class could afford to extend for a while and make elaborate, you know.
You know, in some ways, I think that the elaborate mourning rituals actually help people to get closure, whereas today people treat grief so much differently. They, you know, I mean, of course, you know, you have support and you have people who care. And you know, but after a while, they expect you to go back to normal life, and it makes grieving a little bit harder. It's not as elaborate with the wearing black and going through the whole rituals like from before. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. We are, you know, messed up in a different way than the Victorians were.
Probably a lot more ways. We just don't realize it or want to admit it.
Right. But I wanted to talk about spiritualism a little bit, if I could.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yes, please.
The spiritualism, a lot of the women had leadership roles in it. And a lot of them were young, uneducated women. So, and at that point, it was, you know, women really didn't have anywhere to go for that, to be a part of something, organization that was doing something. So they, spiritualism made their, the kind of attributes, feminine attributes, you know, like being passive and impressionable, they were okay. That was okay for mediums. You wanted that for mediums.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about the Fox sisters?
Yeah, but the Fox sisters and Emma Harding and Cora Hatch, Emily Beebe, and lots of these women of this time period were uneducated, but obviously not stupid.
No, they weren't stupid.
They would go on stage, and they would when they would talk, they would always be they would talk as mediums. They wouldn't talk as when they were themselves. They were just kind of shy girls. But going on stage or in a safe parlor or something, they were able to kind of go into the trance state and speak about politics and philosophy and current events in a very smart way. That meant, of course, they had to be possessed, because a woman couldn't know these things, right?
They weren't encouraged.
They weren't encouraged, and the idea that they were possessed, you know, by a spirit was a lot easier for the Victorians to swallow than the idea that a woman could know this stuff on her own and have an opinion on it, you know?
You know, I think the real spiritualists, the people who actually practiced it, were able to tell what was faked from the genuine article. From the genuine article, they were the people who really practiced spiritualism. They were able to tell when somebody was faking it from the genuine article, when somebody was really going into trance and really getting in spirit. I mean, you had to if you were practicing spiritualism and it was your religion and you went to the spiritualist church, because the spiritualist church did not tolerate fakes.
Yeah. Well, I think there you saw a lot of that, but there's also a lot of undiagnosed epilepsy and stuff at that time. So the people would have seizures or go into state, and obviously undiagnosed mental illness. So there's other ways that people would go into trance states or something, and we can't make that call because we weren't there, But as far as the spiritualists, yeah, I mean they did that. They went into trance regularly, and it's really kind of an interesting progression. The progression, the evolution of spiritualism, how it started from basically Morse code, the Fox sisters hearing a knocking in their house, to,
Right.
3D IMAX kind of big screen with elaborate productions by the, teens and 20s. They, have ectoplasm and spirit trumpets dancing around and pictures and who knows what. But at the beginning, it was enough for people to hear the rapping, to hear the knocking.
In reading some of these histories, I'm not convinced completely, but I feel that a lot of these women actually started out with something genuine. They heard something happened, and they had neighbors and people come to say, "This is what's happening in my house. This is what's happening." They started hearing sounds and knocks, and they were genuine at first because they were really trying to solve a mystery. But then it got so elaborate and out of hand that they were actually expected to perform after that.
Right.
Whereas in the beginning, many of them were very genuine about wanting to solve a mystery and wanting to really get in contact with the spirit world.
Yeah, I kind of get that feeling myself too. That some of them were kind of just innocent and got railroaded into this thing, and then all of a sudden they didn't. They just wanted to contact the spirit world, not put on some sort of elaborate showbiz thing, but that was what they were expected to do.
Well, so money was the main factor too. A lot of rich people were starting to, ask them to come in their homes and paying them an elaborate amount of money, and they were expecting these big seances and ectoplasm and everything, like you were saying.
Right.
It got really out of hand, too. But also, I'd like to point out, too, during the Civil War, after the Civil War, there was a lot of spiritual photographers, like Abraham Lincoln's wife.
Yeah.
A lot of spiritual photography came very popular at the time, too.
It was a kind of explosion of spiritualism after the Civil War because there was so much grief over all of our children that had been killing each other, and all the stuff that went with that, and spiritualism kind of went in waves of popularity like that, like World War One.
After World War One, yeah, it started getting popular again.
A large wave of spiritualism, of course, with Conan Doyle and Harry Houdini and the Scientific American.
And the Ouija board was introduced after that time because of spiritualism. Yeah.
I just actually read a book on that.
Hugely popular, and of course, you guys know that it was, based on something that had been being used for years and years before that, the planchette.
Have you ever read a book called The Witch of Lime Street?
Oh, yeah, I did, actually.
Yeah, I just finished that. It's interesting because it really goes into detail about the period, practices, do's and don'ts, and then what. It's just an I guess they're making a movie out of it.
Oh, are they? Oh, great. I would love to watch that. I think it would be kind of long, but
yeah.
But yeah.
Well, it's kind of anticlimactic, really, if you think about it. How they're going to do the movie, I'm not sure how they're going to end it, but
Yeah, it really, that's kind of the epitome of that, really, because it just kind of peters away.
yeah, exactly.
Everybody lives, and then nothing really happens.
Yeah, exactly. After all that, you're like, oh,
No clear decision one way or another. Yeah, because she is very interesting. Marjorie is the medium.
Marjorie, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
She seemed like she, did some things that were unexplainable,
Yeah.
but was caught in obvious trickery too.
Yep.
So,
exactly. Well, it's just fascinating how Houdini got so frustrated. I mean, to the point where he basically threw one of the seances just so he could debunk her, just to be over with, done with it. Where he actually they were actually at the point where he was almost fixing it just so he could get done with the whole thing.
Mhm.
That's how driven he was to just disprove her. It's just an interesting sparring match with her, and I don't know if she had confidence in what she did or she just said, you know what, this is what I do, this is what happens, like it or lump it. And Houdini's like, I'll show you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he definitely had an ego, and was driven to expose fakes. Yeah. But,
so
spiritualism has always, had people that were, the show must go on. So throughout the different decades, you had the rapping, and then, you had, that wasn't enough. So you had trance mediums, and then, speaking in voices, you had, and then of course by Houdini's time, it just got ridiculous where they were tying Marjorie with some sailor's knots and putting her in a box, and Houdini thought that she was moving things with her hair and stuff,
What's fascinating is that then he would go on stage and recreate the entire seance for an audience. It's like, wow, it's like total ripped out of the headlines here.
Yeah, very, very strange, very, very interesting. That would be cool to be there in that time and see that.
Just to see him.
The whole thing, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Back to your fascination with cemeteries. How did you get into cemeteries, and what led you to want to do historical tours?
Well, I had been to some and started asking questions, and they couldn't answer them. So I decided I would join them and look up the answers myself. And then I started doing my own tours, and now I'm addicted to it. I can't stop it. I'm the tour committee leader for the Old City Cemetery, so I'm planning out next year's tours. And also am doing some other historically oriented stuff. I'm on the Sacramento County Historical Society, and I'm doing a lecture there in September on drugs in the Old West.
Oh, that should be an interesting one.
Yeah, that's another fascinating thing that was just so prevalent in this time period and completely unregulated until 1906, the Pure Food and Drug Act. You could claim that your snake oil, whatever it was, cured everything. And you didn't have to tell anybody that it was, that your baby teething remedy, its main ingredient was chloroform and morphine.
Yikes!
Yikes! Well,
what a mix!
Yeah, it's just crazy. I can't. They must have had a huge amount of drug addicts that didn't even realize it.
They were very accessible, that stuff back then.
Well, what I
Yeah.
loved was the guys who were selling the snake oil and had their assistants to show with the crowd. They looked like vagabonds, in the Old West, And he was like, this will cure you all, your toothaches, blindness.
Yeah, you won't
blah,
care once you take it.
And they would have like some guy who said, "Sir, anybody want to try a sample?" And then we'll have a guy say, "I will," and he's like, "I have this horrible cough or something." And he's like, "Take a swig of this," and you take a swig, and he goes, "Oh my God, I feel great," and everything. Before you know,
people would
pulling
believe
up their
it.
money
They'd
and
take it
just
in.
buying, this stuff. It was the selling of the snake oil was fascinating.
I collect antique books, and I collect.
Do you have any drug almanacs?
Pardon?
Drug almanacs?
An almanac? No.
Yeah, the drug
No, well,
company-
I don't have that. I have, but what I do have is, I have books that were made for women back then. They're annuals for women and men back then, and in the back they have all kinds of ads for different types of medicines and different types of remedies, and the ads were freely saying what they were, and they were freely saying what they would cure. I mean, you can read a lot of these snake oil ads in the back of these annuals. In the
You
back
can
of these
claim
books.
anything.
Yeah.
And they had cocaine and morphine and
I should actually make
Opium.
copies or take
Opiums,
pictures
yeah.
of some of these ads and put them in our page just so that people can know what we're talking about.
Right. Yeah. There. Most of them. I mean, a few of them, like I think Duffy's malt whiskey was pretty clear about what it was, but most of them were like St. Jacob's Miracle Oil or something. Something, and all it was a little morphine and alcohol or something like that. Crazy. And there's a drug scene back there in the 1800s as well. Once they realized that cocaine wasn't the only drug it was supposed to be, then it was made illegal, or harder to get anyway. And then you had the beginning of kind of you had the beginning of modern drug trafficking at that point.
Now, back to your graveyard tours. Has anything unusual ever happened with you or with anybody on that tour that you've noticed in one of the graveyards,
In the
cemeteries?
paranormal
in a
sense.
paranormal sense? Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had anything. I haven't had any weird, creepy feelings. I've been in there a lot and never felt like cold or anything. But I have heard people say that we do have people in there, ghost hunter types that do some investigations, and I've heard that there are several places that are active. I haven't seen anything myself.
Does anybody ever bring any equipment on your tours?
No, that would be okay. I wouldn't mind as long as, they could just go in there on their own and do it,
Yeah.
But they could do that as long as it wasn't distracting.
Right.
But no ordinary person who's came on the tour has witnessed or heard anything that they bothered to tell you about.
Nothing that they've told me about.
Okay.
On our, in October, we do some lantern tours that are there in the evening, and we dress up and get in character, and we have some ghosts running around for that there. But I haven't seen anything like that. But I'm only one person, so I'm sure I've heard that other people have.
Does the town have any local ghost stories around the cemetery? Like, a woman in white or anything like that?
Right. Not that I know of. I know that there's, I'll tell you about the one person who people say that there's activity around their grave is May Woolsey. She's one of our more beloved residents of the cemetery. And And May Wilde was a young girl of 12 who died of encephalitis, brain swelling.
Wow.
That's sad.
Yeah, I think 1879, I believe, somewhere around there.
Yikes.
And her parents were, of course, just grief-stricken, and they went to at least 2 spiritualists to try and contact their daughter. And I actually have the note from one of the spiritualists that I could read to you if you want. But
okay. If you want to hold on to that, we're going to take a quick...
May. She was very much missed, and her parents took all of her stuff, photos and pictures and some dolls, and put them in a trunk and walled up, put them under the stairs and walled it up. And 100 years later, the new owner knocked down that wall and found the trunk.
Wow, that's a treasure chest, really.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And had her drawings in it and some poetry and party invitations, frilly things like that. So people like to come and leave her presents, toys on her gravesite.
Huh.
Very cool. Eric, can you hold on with us? We're going to have one more quick break and come back. Can you hold on?
Sure.
Hey, I mean, praying's for church, huh? Come on.
I haven't seen you in church lately.
Well, there's not much sense in my going to church. Do you remember one time when we were small, we were out here? It was from right over there. I jumped out at you from behind the tree, and Grandpa got all excited, and he shook his fist at me, and he said, "Boy, you'll be damned to hell." Remember that? Right over there. Well, you used to really be scared here.
Johnny.
You're still afraid.
Stop it now, I mean it.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Stop it. You're ignorant.
They're coming for you, Barbara.
Stop it. You're acting like a child.
They're coming for you. Look, there comes one of them now.
Hey, Eric, you still with us?
Yes, I
he
am.
is.
Just for the record, that was Ghost in the Graveyard by the Prairie Ramblers, Die, 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 We All Pass Away from the Corpse Bride, and High on a Windy Hill by the Creed Taylor Orchestra.
I'm sensing a theme.
I think you're right.
So you know what? It did occur to me over the commercial break. I forgot about a ghost.
Oh, do tell.
Not in the cemetery, but at the Crest Theater in Sacramento, where I used to hang out, and a lot of my my friends were the managers of the theater, and a lot of friends worked there.
Oh, is anybody, do you know, still work there?
I don't think so. They had a change of management. So,
okay.
All my people that I knew are gone. But I actually interviewed a lot of them because I was interested in doing a haunted history of the Crest Theater because they. So I do have a tape somewhere, about 12 years ago, that I did interviewing these people about their experiences.
Oh, you should dig that up and send it to us so we can play it on the air.
Yeah, I'll take a look for it.
You're like, yeah, I know right where that's at.
There's 2 ghosts in there, 2 main ghosts anyway. I think there may be different things, but people would always feel like taps on their shoulder and you know, just feel weird and stuff in there.
Interesting.
There's one guy who was the projectionist, and he would always wear green, and so somebody would say, "Oh, saw this guy up towards the rafters, up towards the projection booth, and wearing green. We're like, there's not supposed to be anybody up there. Oh, it's the projectionist. So. And then there was a little girl who was a regularly seen visitor as well.
Huh.
The theater was built in 1914, so everybody would have been from those years. There were actually 2 deaths at the theater. There was a fire and 2 firemen died in the 1940s.
Really? It was a fire in the actual theater?
It was underneath the theater. Next door to it, there was a candy factory, and at the time, candy used like ammonia or something.
Oh.
Some sort of flammable process was involved in making taffy at the time, I think. And so I guess they used to catch on fire, and that did, and it was underneath the seating of the theater. And
wow.
It kind of collapsed in on top of the firefighters.
Yikes. So somewhere in that theater walking around with some popcorn is a fireman or 2.
There actually, there was more deaths in the theater, if I remember. Now that I'm starting to talk about it, I'm starting to remember things. Let's see, around 2000, I think, Mick Martin in the Blues Rockers, the band, and their drummer died on stage in the middle of their set. Had a heart attack.
Wow.
Sad story.
He had a heart condition, so it wasn't a surprise, but
right.
Still, it was a surprise, of course. And I think there was another one, too, that I'm forgetting, another death. But none of them were the little girl or the projectionist.
Huh.
I understand the projectionist because he probably spent a lot of time there, so that would make sense.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I'm sorry, go ahead.
He's probably heading to work in the morning.
Right. The little girl, I don't know. Maybe it was somewhere she felt like she liked to go, to see shows or something.
Yeah. Interesting.
But I don't know. I'm kind of a skeptic. I haven't seen anything overwhelming that changed my mind.
Right.
But I try to have open mind and not just dismiss things out of hand that I don't understand.
Well, that's usually when things do happen, when you have an open mind.
When you least expect it.
Well, we'll see.
Very cool.
Well, are there now back to cemeteries? Is there any particular headstone or mausoleum or marking in those cemeteries that you tour that you'd like to bring to our attention? That something that's unusual or something that that you've discovered
that's a good idea.
Yeah, that comes to your mind.
Well, there is a wealth of hidden information on those headstones in cemeteries. There's usually some symbols on there. The most obvious being a Masonic symbol.
Yes.
Yep.
The calipers.
Wait for it.
But also, there are other smaller things to look for too. Like, of course, the lambs would signify a child's grave. We see lots of those things.
I know sometimes you'll see a cherub with wings too.
Right, cherub with wings. Right. Sometimes you see some more exotic things. Let's see here. Now I'm drawing a blank. Fingers pointing upwards is another one.
Interesting.
Weeping willow. You'll see something that's like a plant, and go, what the heck? And then go, a weeping willow, for sorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of the headstones have, some mythological scenes that don't make any sense.
Are there any unusual epitaphs in any of those gravestones that you tour?
Well, Gone but Not Forgotten is very popular. I'll See You in the Spirit Land.
Yeah.
Summerland. Summerland was what the spiritualists called the afterlife.
Yeah.
Yes.
Summerland.
You see anything that says anything about Summerland, and you know that person was a spiritualist.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the pagans, Wiccans, they would say that if somebody passed away, they went to the Summerlands.
Yes, it's definitely a term used in paganism too.
Right. Yeah, and I think...
Any Oddfellows?
Odd
Symbols,
Fellows, yeah.
Masons?
The Oddfellows. I definitely... Another group that has markings everywhere.
Because we're Oddfellows.
We're all three of us are Oddfellows, yeah.
We are.
Oh, right. I've forgotten that you had told me that.
Yeah. Do we have a section? Does our Oddfellows have a section in the cemetery in Sacramento?
Oh, very definitely. We have the old Oddfellows section, which was one of the oldest parts of the cemetery, and then later they built a separate cemetery next door. That's a larger one.
Nice.
But yeah,
is it well kept?
In Sacramento, in the gold rush, everybody came here. And people were dying, and there was nothing here. And there's no authority to raise money to make a hospital. So the Oddfellows and the Masons joined up, and they made their own hospital here in Sacramento.
Well, that's what we do. That's our creed. We bury the dead.
Yep.
Yes, that's one of our oaths when we repeat the Oddfellows creed. It's about burying the dead
and educate the orphan.
That's one of the things that we're supposed to help with.
Mm-hmm. Well, that is a worthy goal. The Victorians were really big on joining organizations,
mm-hmm.
and doing good works, And of course, the Oddfellows were way ahead of that.
Yeah, we could use more of that doing good nowadays. A lot of more fraternal organizations that do good could use a lot more members right now.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. It's I did a tour on old time organizations, the fraternal organizations, Oddfellows, Masons, but also ones that. Like the Red Men. The Red Men are still around, but they're kind of barely hanging on. And there's a few others that are in the same boat,
Yep.
Now,
and they were very influential, earlier on in the 20th century, and for a lot of folks, a lot of the time, the first time that they got life insurance was through something like the Red Men or the Oddfellows.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Now, Eric, we wanted to ask you, since you do the graveyard tours and the tour and the theme is cemeteries, are there any particular historical people or people in the area, in the local area, that's buried there that comes to mind that you can talk about, that whose grave or whose mausoleum that you've actually shown? Is there anybody of interest?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, we have 3 governors, countless state legislators and stuff like that. We have leaders of business and finance and all kinds of scoundrels.
Plenty of those.
There's bound to be that.
And often they're the same people.
Just real quick, Eric, we have to wrap this up. It looks like we're headed to the end of the show. Do you want to give a quick shout out again on how they can go on your tour, get a hold of you?
Yeah, sure. They can, if they're on Facebook, they can look up Sacramento Historic Cemetery.
Okay.
Perfect.
And if they're on the regular web, oldcitycemetery.com.
Post it on our page, actually.
Okay. And the 27th of August, if you're interested in the Sacramento area, we're going to have a tour on spiritualism and the occult, where I'll talk more about Sacramento. Amy Crocker went out with Aleister Crowley.
Oh. Woohoo! I'm a Thelemite. I love that.
If you want to hear more, you have to come to the tour.
There you go.
Do with thy will should behold the law.
There you go, folks. If you want to head out on the tour, you'll find
There you
out.
go. Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, Eric,
thank
for
you for
taking
this.
time out with us.
Really appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. And definitely check out Eric's historic cemetery tour in Sacramento. He'll be looking for you. Have a good night, Eric. Thanks a lot.
All right. Good night, now.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Okay, folks, and we're actually out of time now. That was a good show.
Yeah.
Yes,
Lots of
excellent.
great information.
Cemeteries are always fascinating and full of history, as
Love
Eric was
Definitely.
showing us.
cemeteries.
Yeah.
So definitely check out that Sacramento graveyard tour, August 27th. I think he said 7 p.m.
Right.
And hopefully he'll still
August
post that on the
27th, I
Facebook
think.
page. Yep. Well, maybe Jackie, she's close. She may
she's
want to
very
check that
close.
out.
She would
She's
love
close.
that.
Should
I
be able
should
to
tell
go.
Pam, too. She might bring some of her people.
Well, Sacramento is a very old city. It has
Yes,
a
it
lot
is.
of ghost history there. A lot of
of
just
history.
fantastic history.
All right, guys, let's say good night and say goodbye until next week.
Good
Goodbye.
night, everybody.
Goodbye.
Until next week.
Sleep
When
Maybe before we leave, Verna wants to tell us what's next week.
we have Glenn Steckling, who runs the George Adamski Society Foundation. Actually.
Yeah. That's pretty
Talk
cool.
about UFOs.
Yep.
We're going to be
and
talking
aliens.
about George Adamski's work and his father Fred Steckling's work, and about UFO contactees and and about the work with the foundation.
This is a show you do not want to miss.
You don't want to miss
This
this.
is really, really good.
And that's next Wednesday, 8 to 10, fccfreeradio.com, right here live, or the podcast immediately after. All right, folks, until next week.
Good night.
Good night.
Portal.